Good morning. Shalom. All men and women of all kinds, but this is a message that's for both. But I'm going to definitely be homing in on women today in a lot of important areas. And I hope that your ears will be open to listening and hearing, and your eyes to see, and men as well, as mothers and fathers. And the topic is actually about mothers and fathers. And children and their need for a mother and a father. And I'm going to go into some different accounts dealing with people. But anyway, so as a man, as a father, trying to be my, as I can, the best that I can. I'm not saying that I'm a good father. I'm not saying that I'm none of that. I'm doing what I'm able to do. I'm making the attempt. I'm trying. I am a father of 3 children, 1 daughter and 2 sons. Sometimes I don't know what to do as far as like parenting them. It's hard for me to handle certain situations, and I thank my Abba Yah for helping me with that, because sometimes it's just overwhelming, and just very, very, very difficult. And it's just difficult. I've had different ways that I've gotten love and stuff growing up and stuff like that, and then it's just been difficult. I have a very huge issue and a heartfelt problem and burden for children, and especially because I've come from where mine are in a way right now. And like many others. And my problem, my issue with you mothers, and even you fathers, it's easy to have a child, but it's another thing to actually be a mother and to be a father and take on the responsibilities and accountability with and in those characteristics as well. It's a responsibility for us to raise up our children in the way that they should go, and that they will not depart when they get older from it. And where I get the discipline and wisdom from, personally, is out of the book of Proverbs. Proverbs 4:4-7, where it says, "Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all that getting, get understanding. Also, lean not unto your own heart, nor trust in your own heart, lean not into your own understanding, nor trust in your own heart. Also, it is written that man will not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Elohim." Then I go to Ephesians chapter 6. Stomach is growling. And you fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of Yahuwah. And in this setting, I also want to talk about, marriage and guidelines to that, where it's Ephesians chapter 5. And I want to home in on this, and I'm going to read the whole chapter because it's my testimony, Be ye therefore followers of Elohim, dear children, or as dear children, And walk in love, as the Hamashiach also hath loved us, and hath given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to Elohim, for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication, and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you, as becometh saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not fitting, but rather giving of thanks. For this you know, that no whoremonger, nor unclean person, nor covetous man, who is an idolater, hath any inheritance in the kingdom of the Hamashiach and of Yahuwah. Let no man deceive you with vain words, for because of these things cometh the wrath of Elohim upon the children of disobedience. And that's why the things that are going on in the world today are happening like that, on scales that blow people's minds, and statistics can't even keep up with it. Be ye therefore partakers with them, for we were sometimes darkness, but now are ye light in the Master. Walk as children of the light, or of light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is acceptable unto the sovereign. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. All right. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them, correct them. And if the people don't want to be corrected, then get away from them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. For whatsoever doeth make manifest is light. Wherefore he saith, Awake thou that sleepest, and rise from the dead, and the Hamashiach shall give thee light. See then that ye walk diligently, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding that the will of the sovereign is, what the will of the sovereign is. And be not drunk with wine, wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit, speaking to yourselves in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody in your heart to the Master, or Rabboni, giving thanks always for all things unto Elohim, the Abba, in the name of our Rabboni Yahusha the Hamashiach, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of the Rabboni. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands, as unto the Rabboni. For the husband is the head of the wife. For the husband is the head of the wife. Even as the Hamashiach is the head of the assembly. Didn't say church, assembly. He said assembly, not church. And he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, as the assembly is subject unto the Hamashiach, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. He didn't say some little pieces here or there, if you want to, if you feel like it, when you want to. He said, do it. Let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, even as the Hamashiach also loved the assembly and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of the water of the word. That's why we read this. That he might present it to himself an honorable assembly, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourish and cherisheth it, even as the Hamashiach the assembly. For we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning the Hamashiach and the assembly. Nevertheless, Let every one of you in particular so love his wife, even as himself, and the wife see that she reverence her husband. Now, in chapter 6, children, obey your parents in Yahuwah, for this is right. Honor thy father and thy mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. Now, I want to say this. Husbands are commanded to love their wives. Wives are commanded to love their husbands. There's a lot of people speaking and teaching that, that the commandment was just for the man. And that's why a lot of wives are full of pride, disobedience, rebellion, rejection, and abandonment, and straight foolishness. Because love thy neighbor as thyself and do unto them as you want them to do unto you, you don't think that goes into play right there. Or you don't even think about it sometimes. Those of you women who act like this. It's not all women, but the majority of the women in the world, I would say about 90% of the women in the world act straight foolish because they have no wisdom. They have no understanding because they don't walk in the light, which is the truth, which is the way of Yahuwah. He is the only one true living Elohim. I am not a religious person. I hate religion. Religion destroys lives. It destroys everything. Look at what's going on in the world. Religion and politics. Then to military and the guiding of the mind, which is the meaning of the word government. It's straight bullcrap. Lies and confusion. To be controlling. Power and control issues. My children soothe themselves somehow in singing about how much they love their mom and another person that they love. They talk about them so highly, yet they're so forgotten. When people get upset at me, they take it out on them. Because however you feel about me and treat me, you're treating them. So I don't allow people to get close to them who do that. And I won't anymore. People could be mad at me. It doesn't matter. I don't care. If they don't want to be around me, they won't be around my children. Flat out. People like to use what I say against me, what I know and what I read and what I hold to my heart as a standard. Just trying to help them and instruct them the same way that they know is the truth. They can confess, and they have confessed many times, but belligerently and blatantly, boldly demonize you for trying to do the best that you can. Yet they're nowhere to be found. When stuff really hits the fan. I was married, no longer married. I begged Yah to send me the wife that is really mine, my true wife. People don't just say stuff like that when you're already married to somebody. Unless there's something in your heart you haven't been willing to admit to yourself. And be honest with it, embrace, and embody, and accept. Sometimes we want what was not ours. It's covetousness. It's greed. Selfishness. It's pride. It's dangerous. It's deadly. It's poison. A lot of women, I see good things in a lot of women. And again, this is not for every woman, because every woman does not act like these characters and behaviors that I'm naming. Selfish, just brute, beastly. Acting like dogs. They eat their own crap, feces. Eat their own vomit. Hard-headed and stubborn. That's a character of many dogs, especially a pit bull. Some of you women, most of you women act like pit bulls. Some of y'all get beat because people can't deal with you. Because you literally entice them to do it. Some of you women like being beat, for whatever sick reasons that is. This is one reason why I don't agree with a lot of theology of Islam. It has been known. They talk a lot about the Prophet Muhammad. He has good characteristics, but nobody wants to talk about the evil that he's done. This man was a pedophile. This man was a murderer. He was a robber. He was a womanizer, an abuser of women. If I could have any woman in the world, she better have the heart of Yah, a woman after his own heart. Otherwise, I don't want nothing to do with you. Hi, hello, how you doing every now and then? That's cool. But we can't kick it on levels. We really can't kick it. Because we not of the same heart, the same mind. We not. But I'm going to read a little bit of this. A brief history of Muhammad. Muhammad was born in Mecca around 570 AD. His father died before he was born, and his mother died when she was about 6 years old. When he was about 6 years old. Forgive me. We don't know much about Muhammad prior to the time he started receiving his revelations. Muslim traditions tell us that he was known as Al-Amin, the trustworthy. So he may have a reputation for honesty in his dealings with others. Apparently, he was handsome as well. One day, a rich widow named Khadija, Muhammad's employer, asked him to marry her. And Muhammad accepted. Hadiyah, was around 15 years older than Muhammad, who was 25 at the time, but by all accounts, it was a happy marriage. In year 610, Muhammad was in a cave on a religious retreat, and something interesting happened. When it was the night on which God honored him with his mission and showed mercy on his servants thereby, Gabriel brought him the command of God. He came to me, said the apostle of God, while I was asleep with a coverlet and a brocade, whereon was some writing, and he said, "Read." I said, "What shall I read?" He pressed me with it so tightly that I thought it was death. Then he let me go and said, "Read." I said, "What shall I read?" He pressed me with it again so that I thought it was death. Then he let me go and said, "Read." I said, "What shall I read?" He pressed me with it the third time so that I thought it was death and said, "Read." I said, "What then shall I read?" And this I said only to deliver myself from him, lest he should do the same to me again. He said, "Read the name of the Lord, of thy Lord, who created man of blood coagulated. Read, the Lord is the most beneficent, who taught by the pen, taught that which they knew not to men." So I read it, and he departed from me, and I woke up from my sleep, and it was as though these words were written on my heart. Muhammad was terrified by what happened to him. He believed that he had encountered a demon, and he became suicidal. His wife, Hadiyah, and her cousin, Warak, however, convinced him that he was a prophet of God and that he had met the angel Gabriel in the cave. Muhammad spent the next 12 years preaching in Mecca, first only in private, then in public. During these early years, Muhammad preached a peaceful message. He called for religious tolerance, but he told people that they needed to turn to Allah. In general, the polytheistic Meccans hated him. The persecution eventually got so bad that Muhammad accepted an invitation to move to another city. The Median period. 622, Muhammad and most of his followers moved nearly 300 miles north to what is now Medina. It's difficult to overestimate the importance of the move of the Muslims from Mecca to Medina. It was in Medina that the Muslim community became a political entity, which is central to Islam. And that's one reason why Saudi Arabia and Iran and a lot of Muslims have been hired by the government of Babylon, or Greek, or the Roman Empire of the Vatican, and also United States of America, Incorporation of America. to do their will. Conquest. Which is central to Islam. From his base in Medina, Muhammad began a series of raids against the Meccan caravans. While the first 6 raids failed, the 7th raid, the Nakhla raid, was a success. The problem was that the Muslims attacked during a holy month in which everyone had agreed not to fight. An innocent man was even killed during the raid. This eventually led to war between the Muslims in Mecca. Understandably, the people of Mecca sent around 1,000 guards to protect their next caravan. The Muslims attacked with a much smaller force, and they won what came to be known as the Battle of Badr. For the next 10 years, until Muhammad's death in 632 and 632 A.D., the Muslims. I'm sorry, this stumbling over a lot of words right here. The Muslims never stopped fighting. Muhammad fought several more key battles against Mecca: the Battle of Uhud and the Battle of Rink, whatever that is. Finally, taking the city in 630. Muhammad attacked other groups as well in 629. Muslims attacked a Jewish settlement on the oasis of Khaybar in northwestern Arabia shortly after the conquest of Mecca. Muhammad received Surah 929, which ordered Muslims to fight non-Muslims, including Christians and Jews, until they submit to Islam. Fight those who do not believe in Allah, nor in the latter day, nor do they prohibit what Allah and His Apostle have prohibited, nor follow the religion of truth out of those who have been given the book until they pay the tax in acknowledgement of superiority and they are in the state of subjection. Obeying this command to fight, Muhammad marched an army against the Byzantine Empire through the Byzantines. Though the Byzantines chose not to fight, Muhammad became sick and died shortly thereafter. Muhammad the Good. Now that we have an outline of Muhammad's life, it might be helpful to zoom in on some specific issues to help us form an accurate picture of the Prophet of Islam. While it is an error to maintain, as Muslims do, that Muhammad was history's greatest moral example, some critics are equally mistaken when they go to the opposite extreme to portray Muhammad as history's worst moral example. Indeed, Muhammad had many positive characteristics. True. We know that he was courageous both because he patiently endured several years of persecution in Mecca and because he fought in numerous raids and battles throughout his life. Muhammad placed an emphasis on helping orphans and widows, and there were times when he showed great mercy. He was an ardent monotheist and despised idolatry. He told his followers to heed God's prophets such as Noah, Abraham, Moses, and David. These are areas where even non-Muslims would agree that Muhammad exhibited positive traits. Muhammad the bad. Yet Muslims tend to focus solely on the good characteristics of their prophet and to completely ignore his less admirable qualities. We have already seen that Muhammad began robbing caravans after leaving Mecca. As a result, greed soon became one of the primary factors in people's rapid conversion to Islam. Indeed, Muhammad deliberately used the spoils of war to lure people to Islam. When he was criticized for the way he distributed his newfound wealth, he replied, "Are you disturbed in mind because of the good things of this life by which I win over a people that they may become Muslims, while I entrust you to your Islam?" Although Muhammad patiently endured persecution in Mecca, his attitude quickly changed when his numbers grew in Medina. Soon he would tolerate no criticism whatsoever. According to our earliest biographical source, a man named Abu Afak, who was more than 100 years old, wrote a poem criticizing people for converting to Islam. Muhammad demanded he be killed, and Abu Afak was murdered in his sleep. When a woman named Asma heard that Muslims had killed such an elderly man, she wrote a poem calling for people to take a stand against Islam. Ibn Ishaq relates that what happened next. When the apostle heard what she had said, he said, "Who will rid me of Marwan's daughter?" Umar bin Adi al-Khatmi, Umar bin Adi al-Kadmi, who was with him, heard him, and that very night he went to her house and killed her. In the morning he came to the apostle and told him what he had done, and he said, "You have helped God and his apostle." O Amir, when he asked if he would have to bear any evil consequences, the apostle said, "Two goats won't butt their heads about her." So Umir went back to his people. Muhammad's violence was directed towards groups as well. Muhammad once said to his followers, "I will expel the Jews and the Christians from the Arabian Peninsula and will not leave any but Muslims." The Jews of Qurayza resisted Muhammad and attempted to form an alliance against him. When the alliance faltered, Muhammad acted quickly. His army surrounded them and besieged them for 25 nights until they were sore pressed and God cast terror into their hearts. Then they surrounded the apostle, confined them in Medina. Then the apostle went out to the market of Medina, which is still its market today, and dug trenches in it. Then he sent for them and struck off their heads in those trenches as they were brought out to him in batches. There were 600 or 700 in all, though some put their figure as high as 800 or 900. Every male who had reached puberty was killed. Muhammad divided the women, children, and property among his men, taking a fifth of the spoils for himself. Muhammad the Ugly. But things get worse. As the Muslim armies raided town after town, they captured many women who would often be sold or traded. Yet, since the Muslim men were a long way from their wives, they needed wisdom from Allah to guide them in their treatment of their female captives. It wasn't long before Muhammad received a revelation allowing the soldiers to sleep with the women. Allah's messenger sent an army to Atas, and encountered the enemy and fought with them. Having overcome them and taken them captives, the companions of Allah's messengers seemed to refrain from having intercourse with captive women because of their husbands being polytheists. Then Allah Most High sent down regarding that, and women already married, except those whom your right hands possess. I think it's IV-24 and IE or example. They were lawful for them when their Ida period came to an end. This verse of the Quran in 424, along with the others 23 and 1 through 6 and 33, 50 and 70, 22 through 30, granted Muslims the right to have sex with their female captives and slave girls, even those who were still married or who were going to be sold or traded. Perhaps most disturbing of all is the fact that Muslims could have sex with girls who hadn't even reached puberty. The opening verses of chapter 65 of the Quran present Islamic rules for divorce according to 65 and 4. If a Muslim divorces a girl who hasn't yet reached puberty, he must wait 3 months to make sure she isn't pregnant. Muhammad himself had sex with a prepubescent girl. His courtship of Aisha, Aisha, began when she was only 6 years old. Muhammad had a dream about her, which led him to believe that God wanted him to marry the young girl. Fortunately, Muhammad waited 3 years before having sex with her. Nevertheless, Muslim sources report that Aisha still hadn't reached puberty. Since Muhammad is a moral exemplar of Islam, his actions are still affecting young girls today. And at the end of the good, the bad, and the ugly, Blondie famously says, "You see, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig, you dig." Those who dig, you dig. Similarly, we may say that there are two types of beliefs in this world. Those that are based on evidence and those who aren't. And Muslims believe that Muhammad was morally perfect, and that an examination of his life will prove that he was a prophet. The evidence, however, shows that Muhammad was far from morally perfect, and that there's no good reason to believe that he was sent by God. There is a world of difference then between the Muhammad of history and the Muhammad of faith. When we may contrast this with the historical Jesus, Christians believe that Jesus was a miracle worker who claimed to be divine, died on the cross, and rose from the dead. And a careful historical investigation confirms all of these beliefs. Thus, while Christians have absolutely nothing to fear from an examination of early historical sources, history is a huge problem for Islam. Now, I want to say this. Every woman or Muslim woman does not want to be a Muslim or a part of Islam. And this is a reality that most are afraid of talking about. And I agree with them, and I believe, and I know why. I, at one time, was part of Islam. And we were not allowed to draw any images of the Prophet Muhammad at all. It was considered blasphemous. And any images of anything that was living in the heavens or in the earth, it was considered blasphemy or idolatry, worshiping false gods. We're not allowed to eat swine, as seen in the Torah or the Tanakh in the ancient times, or the law, as you would say. And there's another thing I want to say about Islam, where they believe that the Prophet Muhammad was the new covenant because he brought a new song or a new teaching. He was not the new covenant. The only new covenant was Yahusha, and is Yahusha. There's a difference between brought and being. And his name is not Jesus. His name is Yahusha. The Jesus that Christians have been known to follow is a white man, a white homosexual man, who is the lover of Leonardo da Vinci. His name is Caesar Borgia. That's the picture of the white Jesus going like this and, got the Sacred Heart or whatever and stuff like that. That's idolatry. It also goes to Helios and Horus and Isis and Tammuz. It's sun worship. That's why he has the discus, the halo that they call it. It's the symbol of a sun, the ancient symbol of the sun. It represents the sun. So they are worshiping the sun. That's why they worship on Sunday, going all the way back to Constantine, the Battle of Constantine in the Council of Nicaea, and where they switched the Sabbath day, which was the seventh day, to Sunday, which is the first day. In the original manuscripts, there was no days. There was no names for the days. It was first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, Sabbath day, or Sabaoth day, right, or Shabbat day. There wasn't a such thing as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Those are names of pagan demons, false gods that people worship. The demon that came to him forced him. That's not the will of Yahuwah. He doesn't force you. He gives you the right to freedom of choice, free will. He's not going to force you to read something. Even if he gets angry, he's not forcing you. He allows you to make your own choice. Then the rest is up to you. You reap what you sow. According to your works, be it unto you, right? That's why he says, do unto them as you want them to do unto you. It's called free choice, free will. Also, the fact that, when I left Islam, and I'm glad I did, I'm joyful. I hate the religion of Islam. I hate the religion of Christianity, because it's religion. It's not the way of life. It's not truth. It's man-made inventions from doctrines of demons and doctrines of men. They're traditions. That's why Yahuwah literally says, you must give up your traditions and customs. Forsake the traditions of your forefathers. Religion is murderous. It's slanderous. It's demonic. It is the very mind frame and the heart and imagination and desire of Azazel or Lucifer or the slandering adversary. If you slander truth, you're Satan, the devil. You're of the same thing. You're a Satan and a devil. There's many Satans. There's many devils. Slandering adversary. There's many slandering adversaries. There's many anti-Christ or anti-Hamashiachs, which is anti-right, doing what is right, righteousness, the being called to do right and chosen to do right, to teach the right way, the will of Yahuwah. That's why I gave those scriptures, those inscriptions, the original manuscripts, and going back even to the 1611 versions, don't even speak about the cross in it. He was murdered. He was hung on a tree. The book of Acts chapter, the book of Acts talks about that. Even in the Torah. It would make sense for a crown of thorn to pierce his head, especially if it was made out of barbed wire. Because that metal could pierce through your skull. Before there was a lynching, they always burned crosses. A lynching was being hung. Cursed is every man who is hung on a tree. I shame Islam. I shame it. Shame on you. Islam. All the Muslim that worship this pagan idolatry. Polytheism. Saturn worship. The cube worship. The yoni worship. A lot of Christians do the same thing. Christians do the same thing. Knights Templar. Bavarian Illuminati. These are the beginners of the Christianity. The Greeks, the Romans. That's why they had the cross. Their crusades. Cross on their shield. They felt the Alahim of the Hebrews helped them win the battles. These people were barbarians. Still are barbarians. That's why you have more Freemasons running these synagogues of Satan or these Circes. These churches. Circe was a goddess of magic and witchcraft, sorcery. A demon. That's where you get the word church. The etymology of that word. That's why you have more women and more men acting like whores. And prostitutes. Both. Religion is prostitution. It's blasphemy. It's lies. It's confusion. It's murderous. It's covetous. When I was married, there were those who felt like they could just take it upon themselves to have sex with my wife. In the Christian church. The best excuse that they could come up with was, well, you guys don't have any information on paper. Well, it's a good thing that wasn't the original design of Yahuwah when he created man and woman. And he brought them together. Lying blasphemers. Covetous. Greedy. Selfish. That's a mind of a bastard child. The man has no understanding. Now I've forgiven them. I'm just letting that be known because a lot of people will say, Christianity's the way. No, it's not. It's because they speak about the one true Elohim, but don't even follow him in their actions daily as a lifestyle. Then you get it mixed up like his name is God. His name is not God. It's a title of his position. In the proper quintessence of his being. It's what he does by balance of his order. As he created it. He was not created. He is the creator. There's not many creators. There's only one creator. Lucifer had the same mind. And he hasn't been able to create anything. Inventions of his imagination of things that are already there. That's projection of a vision. All the raids that was done in the East. Murdering of people. Look at the Atlantic slave trade. The Roman Renaissance time period. Why do you think the Muslims are still working in the governments now? Trying to govern the mind of people. When I was in Detroit, they're going over and freaking recruiting all kinds of people, especially young people who are ignorant and blind and full of rage and anger. Jealousy, hatred, bitterness, and unforgiveness. Promising them hope that they cannot give them. Slanderers. Just like Christianity. Why do you think people leave Christianity? There was no J in the 1600s. There's no J in the original 1611 King James Version of the Bible. There's two different King Jameses. One was a downright murderous abomination. The other one was actually a man of Yahuwah, chosen. Do a study in the history of the Bibles and how they came into be. The different interpretations and how they're used to this day. Look at the Jehovah's Witnesses. Why do you think that they teach that you're not supposed to follow all these different holidays and stuff like that? Because they know the truth. That's why Rome rewrote stuff, so you would be confused, so you could never know the true name of your Elohim. Know your Rabbana Yahuwah, Yahusha, who is one and the same. He's not three different gods. He's one. Three different characteristic positions. An action of who he is. It's like you having your first, middle, and last name, but you're still that one person. You're not three separate persons. There's no Trinity. That symbol, where it looked like looped triangles and stuff, the Trinity, that came all the way. That's pagan. That's Hellenistic. It's barbaric. From Egyptology. Study symbology. If I had a woman that I could marry, that I will marry, I would rather her be of Hebrew and Aramic root. There are a lot of beautiful and good-hearted Arabic women who act more Hebrew than most Hebrew women do to this very day. That understand honor and integrity. You will do well by following after Noah's example, after Moses, and after Jacob. And even more so, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who are my forefathers, who serve Yahuwah, Yahusha. They know who he is. If you Christians knew so much about your Elohim and your Lord and Savior, there's two different distinct definitions and realities of the word Lord. One as Baal, and one is as a position of power and authority and dominating purposes. The man doesn't dominate his wife as if she's some piece of trash or some slave to be thrown around and be abused and used however she wants to. A lot of Islamic men do that to their wives. That's wrong. Same with Christians. That's wrong. She's not your property to sling around and be disgraceful for and treat her like she's an abomination, just evil to her. You don't beat on her. You don't go and have many other women to wife when you have her. That's disrespectful. And you ought to be punished for it. Have you no shame? That's your problem. You don't know shame. I spit on Islam. I spit on Christianity. I spit on Hinduism. I spit on atheism. I spit on Bavarian Illuminati. Ism, Catholicism, Presbyterianism, Lutheranism, Presbyterianism. All the same thing. Islam was hired as assassins to join the conquest of Bavarian Illuminati and the Roman Catholics or the Roman Empire to come together as one. And with them, they can unite all the religions together as one and conquer the world. One world conquest. The new world order, which is actually nothing but the old world order. There's nothing new underneath the sun. Bavarian Illuminati would be actually intelligent and have some type of wisdom if they understood the whole purpose of what Solomon was talking about. Everything that you live for is an abomination. It's vanity. You do no honor or no good towards King Solomon's name. You're perverted, bastard-minded children. And you serve the same bastard father, which is Lucifer. You're of God, an abomination. He himself was too proud. He wanted to be something he was not. Someone he was not. And he still cannot do that. He murders everything that opposes him. At least he thinks he can. Because you got the internet doesn't mean you're all seeing and all knowing. Still glitches, still get shut down. Congratulations. You're not the one true living Elohim. You suck. Your gods suck. Your gods are worthless and abominations. You go and sacrifice your menstrual cycle blood to this Vishnu and Krishna and Confucianism and all these abominations and demons and stuff, who have the symbol of the serpent, which is the symbol of the great dragon, Lucifer. The devil, the deceiver. In the book of the beginning, Bereshit, Genesis. You are not gods. You are men. You will die like men. In the name of Yahusha. That's why he says, repent and turn from your wicked ways, or you will surely die. Repent and turn from your wicked ways, or you will surely die. Says Yahuwah. Rabbona Yahuwah Yahusha. Yaram Yahu Hezekiel. For Isisha. Bereshit. Tav. Selah.